am so surprised that the roof of the Alexandra Palace in London didn't completely shatter under the force of the sheer volume of sound that Bad Omens threw at it at this gig. I wear earplugs to gigs. You need to. You can't grow your eardrums back, right? Protect those things. And I had to upgrade the earplugs I was wearing because they were not strong enough for the volume of what Bad Omens were doing. It was insane. People in the front of the crowd 100% got tinnitus last night. Like there was the most insanely loud thing I've ever heard. Now, more about their set later on. Here's my experience of seeing Bad Omens with Bilmuri and the Ghost Inside at Alexandra Palace in London. So Ghost Inside were the first band on. I know some of their songs. There's a couple that stand out that I'm familiar with, but I haven't listened to a bunch of their music. I have seen them before live at Download Festival a few years ago, and I really enjoyed it. They create a very sort of communal atmosphere amongst the audience. The sound for them was overall pretty good. Vocals, I thought, way too quiet. Which is a shame, especially if you don't know the songs and you're kind of relying on some of the vocals to hook you in if you're unfamiliar with the rest of the music. So, a shame there, but as the set went on, my ears tuned a little bit more into the vocals and I could kind of recognize more what they were doing. Or if I happened to notice a song that I was familiar with the melody, then my brain can kind of fill in some of the gaps. So sound wasn't the best, but overall, I still enjoyed it pretty well. I think they did a pretty good job of delivering their set to perhaps a crowd that doesn't largely know their music, right? They're a little bit different from Bad Omens. Certainly Bad Omens are the modern era that has this massive crowd, and you could kind of feel that in the audience. The crowd was not going crazy for them. There wasn't a whole lot of movement or energy. Maybe there was right at the front in the middle. I was off to the side near the front, so I couldn't really see any of that action going on. But there were some good sing-along, shout-along moments that the crowd were participating in. I also just love seeing a band like this in front of an audience that size. It's fucking cool. The fact that bands like the Ghost Inside are playing, albeit opening support, doesn't really matter. They're still playing the Alexandra Palace in front of a huge audience, and I think it's really cool. They remind me essentially of, people might disagree, but it's a day to remember, but more emotional with like heavy-weighted gravitas throughout their set. Kind of how I interpret that. I'm not always in the mood for that, but I thought they did a pretty good job of opening the evening. Yeah, no complaints from me. Soon I'm going to start like a rating system for live shows. I have one for songs. Not for me, half or decent, solid, delicious masterpiece. I'm going to workshop this a little bit. We're going to go for must see. Drop everything. Go see this band. I highly recommend you see. Don't drop everything, but like you should definitely see them if you can. I'd recommend. It's like solid. Yeah, I'd recommend you see them. It's net positive as an experience. Not amazing, but like good. And then would not recommend, I suppose would be the bottom one there. Maybe there's a not for me in there as well, because, it might not be that what they did was good, it's just not my bag, right? So maybe there's that. Maybe that's a 5-tier system. Anyway, the Ghost Inside, I would say, recommend. If you're at a festival and they don't clash another band, go see them. I thought it was overall pretty decent. After them was, honestly, the band I was most excited to see that night, because they're like my favorite fucking band on the planet, Bilmuri. I've seen them actually at this stage, after this gig, 3 times this year. Every time they've come to London, I've gone to see them. So I've already reviewed them twice for the channel. So I won't do a full review of their whole performance and set, but I will put some links to 2 videos that I've reviewed them in before, so you can check those out. But what was different about this particular performance, they've not played Ali Pali before, but they have played the O2 Arena. And so that's kind of comparable in size in terms of the stall standing audience in front of them. O2 Arena is about 20,000 people, the O2 Arena. Alexandra Palace is around 10,000 and a bit. So about half an O2 Arena. So they're very well versed in this kind of performance, and they did a great job. It was fucking awesome. I loved it, but I love all of their music, and they're incredible live. The sound was perfect as well for them. At the start, Gabby Rose's mic volume's maybe too quiet, but over the course of the set, her volume went up, so that was great to see. They had a couple of differences, though, in particular, at this gig in terms of the lineup. they had a guy at the back of the stage playing a pedal steel. As I understand, that's what it's called. It's like a horizontal guitar with a slide on it to get a kind of country twang sound. So that was cool. I noticed that in a couple of songs where that really stood out. Loved that as a layer. They also had a live bassist, which I've never seen them have before. So they had a new member there doing the live bass. And I love that as well. I noticed moments where there was like a bass run. I'm like, that's not normally on the track. And I noticed, there is a live bassist. So that's a nice extra element to bring some more humanity to the live performance, I think, a little bit in the musicianship. And then they didn't have Xavier, the drummer, that I've only ever seen them have before. They had Josh Manuel, who was the drummer that records all of the drum parts on the recordings, pretty much. There's some in the past aren't, but predominantly recorded drums for Bilmuri done by Josh Manuel. So it was amazing to finally see him performing live, especially in songs like All Gas, where I just adore his phrasing that he uses in there. So to feel that kind of live energy from those parts that he's put together, super fucking cool. So really enjoyed seeing Bilmuri absolutely crush their set at Ali Pali. I mean, maybe I'm biased, but actually I don't think so, because I was on the platform of the train station after the gig, and a couple of random strangers were talking to each other. One said like, well, I think the best band was that second band of the night. I don't remember what they were called. It was a strange name, but yeah, I thought they were really good. He had a couple of beers, but the point was there. That was the stand-up band for someone who clearly didn't know that Bilmuri at all. So that's a good sign. But yeah, their balance of sound allowed the songs to breathe. They had about 35 minutes to 40 minutes a set. So if you know Bilmuri, that means they played about 50 songs because their songs are so short. My only criticism really is that I would like to have had a little bit more in-between song kind of banter and japes from the likes of Johnny and Reese, because they're always fun with those moments, but they were just absolutely clattering through songs. So that was it. Yeah, I mean, if I were to rate that, they're a must-see. If you haven't seen Bilmuri live, you have to fucking go see Bilmuri. Must-see. Then it was on to the headline act, of course, of Bad Omens. Now, I've seen them once before, when they were supporting Bring Me the Horizon at the O2 Arena. And I was really impressed with them, especially as an opening act. They were the second band on of the night. They had some cool LED screens, so a bit of production going on there. Very impressive overall sound. Great screen vocals from Noah. A lot of vocal effects going on. Live vocal effects are not really my thing, but it's kind of part of their sound, so that is what it is. So I was looking forward to seeing them again and seeing what ways they might have stepped up their live performance and their kind of production for a headline show at this massive Ali Pali venue. And they certainly went up in scale and production, and also in sort of a storytelling element. So the show actually opens with a VT running with some kind of like cassette tape deck spinning some recorded voice telling some kind of first person narrative thing with some really odd conceptual footage of cinematic moments of other really confusing things. So I was kind of intrigued by that, because some of that's been in their music videos that they've released of singles this year, and I find that works in the music video sense, and I was thinking this could really be interesting as part of their live performance. It gives you a story arc that maybe the songs can fit into, give you another element to enjoy of the live experience. And I'm sure that was the case for some people, but I would wager that only about 10% maybe of the audience understood what the fuck was going on in those videos. I couldn't follow it. It was really confusing. It's very like high concept stuff. And I felt no wiser or more or even less fulfilled as a human at the end of watching those. I got really not very much out of them at all. And it felt oddly that was its own story. It didn't seem to relate in any way with the production, the visuals of the songs of the show in between those video moments. I'm sure there is some kind of tie-in, but it's not a very obvious one, which I think you would need if you're putting it in front of many thousands of people. I don't know. I thought that was an interesting choice. It didn't land for me, but I'm sure the folks online have like peered through all the footage and deciphered it, and maybe they've made sense of it. But without that, if you're just watching that in the audience, confusing as fuck. I didn't really get it. And maybe if you did, if you got a lot out of that first time around, let me know in the comments what I might have missed there. But it just seemed like a very emotive story arc in a very abstract visual that was confusing as fuck for me. And I don't think it really added anything. But other than to give a bit of an atmosphere at the start and some breaks for the band in between the songs to like chill. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really think that added much for me. But they had huge screens this time, way bigger than I've seen them have before, and actually kind of rivaled Spirit Box for the size of the LED screens that they brought. Some hanging from the rafters, others behind them or on the sides. And I thought that was pretty cool in places. I think there were moments where that really added some cool fiery atmosphere or kind of electric sort of blue. And the green fluorescence for the Van song they did, the poppy song, I thought was pretty striking to look at. But there were many songs early on that I presume were from the Death of Peace of Mind album, because it was all basically just red. And so the songs didn't really differentiate that much between them. It was kind of like, it felt like it was one production for a few songs in a row. That wasn't that varied or interesting. They had pyrotechnics. They had some smoke, kind of pneumatic smoke thing, devices. I don't know what they're called or how that works, but yeah. Big smoke guns and pyro fire guns as well. But they didn't really vary them throughout the gig. So they had those, and they would just use them sometimes. But it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't as vibrantly interesting as I think of other bands I've seen do. Like Electric Callboy, for example. They were a bit more varied. I mean, I did like that towards the end of the set, they would hit those buttons a bit more and have a little bit more pyro, and it got a little bit busier. That's cool, that makes sense. They opened the set with Spectre, which was kind of a surprise to me, because that's a massive song. It's a huge hit from this year. And it's a very somber tone to set at the start. I think that makes sense as a sort of flag in the ground to say we're quite different in tone from The Ghost Inside and Bilmuri. So like reset your inner barometer for atmosphere. 'Cause we're a more slow-paced, melodic, slightly spooky, in sort of tone, that song at least, sort of thing. So embrace that. And also I was kind of thinking it would be a great song to kind of finish on, because it has this really big epic ending with that whole tempo shift. So an interesting start. I mean, I liked it. It got me really excited for the set. It's like there's so many great songs that they're going to play that I'm excited to hear at this venue. And I don't listen to Bad Omens that regularly. I really enjoy their singles when they come out, and I rinse those a little bit, but I don't know their discography very well. So I was kind of surprised at how many songs I did know. They actually have a plethora of hits. I think most of the set I recognize, which I wasn't necessarily expecting to do. And they very well spaced, I think, their big hit songs throughout the set. So that was very cool. And managed to somehow fairly deftly go from the quiet, melodic, emotive, vulnerable vocal moments to songs like Dethrone. I mean, that was one of the later ones, but they're, heavier scream songs. And it did feel kind of cohesive. I liked the swing and energy. It felt kind of authentic. I liked the way that they did that throughout the set. It was pretty cool. It did feel a little bit like... Here's where my criticisms start, I suppose. Like, it was very impressive. It was very slick, very polished. All the production seemed to work seamlessly. It was quite a striking, huge visual initially, and there wasn't that much variation, I think, on the LED screens. I think they could have done more interesting things with what they displayed on those, but rather than kind of collages of colors and things. But it was incredibly loud, as I mentioned in my introduction. Incredibly fucking loud. So much so that I saw the first few songs at the front, and I had my earplugs in. I was like, I need to use my heavier duty earplugs, so I swapped them out, and even that, it just didn't sound great because of the heavy duty earplugs I had going. So I actually had to move to the back of Ali Pali in order to hear it better with my original earplugs, because it was just skull-shakingly loud. I really genuinely feel for everyone that was at the front. I could see we're not wearing earplugs. I'm like, they are in serious fucking trouble. Wear earplugs, folks. It's so important to wear earplugs to gigs. You will rue the day if you don't. So that was a little bit of discomfort, frankly, but that's fine. It's a rock show. It should be fucking loud. I'm not complaining. It's just like me and my ears. I need to go back a little bit there. Now, in terms of the things I think, other than the visuals, I think maybe could have had a little bit more pizzazz to them. And I found the VTs a little bit confusing in between songs. Not sure they added that much. My other thing about it was that Noah's got an incredible voice. It's iconic. It's phenomenal. But they do use vocal effects live. And I understand that as an aesthetic choice. And I think it works because it's kind of part of their sound, right? But I do kind of wish I could hear more of the raw vocal and less of the refining vocals. I mean, I know you want the vocal delivery surely to be like absolutely perfect. That's part of the charm, I think, of their sound, is that kind of perfection. So I'm not surprised to have heard that the way it was, but it didn't make me feel as humanly connected to what was going on. There's a little bit of an audio layer in there that I don't know. I'd rather it be a little bit rougher and you feel a little bit more in the moment than feeling like you're getting a vocal that is then added to in a digital way, and then that's what you hear. That's just my own preference, right? But the other aspect that I think contributes to this is it does feel a little bit like the Noah Sebastian show, and then the band is there in support of that. And maybe that is the band dynamic, I'm not really sure, but the musicianship output was so clean and tight and tidy and well mixed within that it didn't really feel like a live band, oddly, despite the sheer fucking volume of it all. You know, I think the drums sounded like they might have been, either they're engineered incredibly to perfection, or there's some kind of like triggered sample sounds within it, so they get an excellent sound overall. But there's something, again, a little bit lacking in humanity in the musicianship aspect of the performance, which I don't get with the likes of Bilmuri or like Sleep Token. You get more of that human input, I think, for those. So because they have this electronic fused music, it does kind of work. Like, it makes sense for Bad Omens. So if that's what you're into, you're going to get a live show that represents pretty closely what you're hearing on record, just fucking loud. And you get to have some moments of Noah chatting in between songs, or within songs going like, come on, motherfuckers, where's your circle pit? Whatever it is he's saying at the time. So that reminds you that it's live and you have this shared experience. But otherwise, I find it's a little bit disconnected between the perfection of what's going on stage and the humanity that's in front of it. But listen, I mean, it was a very impressive set list. I enjoyed the way they outlined all, had the path of songs from start to finish. I thought it was very, slick, high quality production. They've stepped it up. Like, they've definitely spent a bunch of money to make sure that you're getting your money's worth out of this concert. There is a spectacle to it. And they played a great variety of the softer songs to the super fucking heavy songs as well. So I think every fan base is happy with a collection of things that happened set list wise. So I think my only real gripes are like my own personal tasting, which is, most people might not share this view, but I like a little bit more humanity in it. But it was undeniably a very polished, good, impressive delivery of a live show by Bad Omens headlining 10,000 person arena in London. And they mentioned on stage that the last time they headlined a gig in London was at the Dome, which is like 500 capacity, I think Noah said, but it's a tiny, tiny venue. They played that 3 nights in a row because it was so tiny. And to go from that to Ali Pali is mammoth in difference. So pretty cool to have seen the meteoric rise of them. They've managed to catch some waves of interest, and they're super popular for good reason. They write really good music, and it's a very polished live show. Can't really knock it too much. That's my kind of take on it. If I were to recommend it on a rating, I would say I would recommend you go see Bad Omens. I think it's, I wouldn't say like drop everything and you must see them live. Because again, I personally, I like live to feel a little bit more live than what that was. But yeah, very good. I mean, I'm somewhere between recommend and highly recommend, depending on what you get out of live concerts. But it was very impressive for what that was, and I was delighted to have seen that. Cool to have had 3 quite different sets as well. It's not like there were 3 of the same bands. There was a bit of variety on display there, and it was a very fucking cool tour to have seen in London. So that was my experience of it. I'm now going to check out Drew Fortune's experience, my friend from the Metal Roundup, who saw them in Dublin, to see what his take of Bad Omens was. He made a video about that, which is almost 40 minutes long, I think. Drew, how did you do that? That's like the same amount of time that Bilmuri were on stage. I can't wait to see what his thoughts were. I'll grab a hot chocolate and sit down and relax and watch the 40 fucking minutes that is. But yes, so I'll see what that's like. If you enjoyed this, I do live concert reviews on the regular. In fact, tomorrow at the time of this recording, I'm due to go to Bristol to check out Straight From The Path's last ever gig in the UK. So I'm sure I'll make a video about that. Do subscribe if you want to see more of these things in your YouTube feed in future. Thank you for checking this out. Hope you're all well. If you went to that gig, let me know in the comments what your experience was, what your thoughts were of what I've said about this. Does that mirror your kind of feeling, or did you have a completely different take? I'd love to hear other people's input to this as well. But otherwise, thanks for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful day.